This is Art Television.
Coming up, State of Business, sponsored by
UHD quality video streaming, internet like a boss, SLT Mobitel Fiber.
IWS Aviation.
A very good evening. Welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Mariam Vijayaratna. Let's have a look at the headlines first. IMF indicates that it will look to assist Sri Lanka with the economic crisis. India and China continue to extend economic support and aid to Sri Lanka. News in detail. IMF First Deputy Managing Director Geeta Gopinath met Finance Minister Ali Sabri and CBSL Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and indicated that the IMF will look to assist Sri Lanka. Director Gopinath met the two officials yesterday at the IMF World Bank Spring meetings. Gopinath advocates the invoicing of regional trade, one of the regional currencies. Gopinath expressed via Twitter that it was very good to meet Sri Lanka Minister Ali Sabri and Governor Veerasinghe at the IMF spring meetings to discuss the difficult challenges Sri Lanka faces. Meanwhile, India has signalled its willingness to lend to Sri Lanka and allow overseas borrowing in Indian rupees. This, alongside systems that invoice Indian export in Indian rupees, has been called for by the importer community to ensure an adequate supply of essentials in the interim period before an IMF agreement. Sabri and Veerasinghe also met with the U.S. State Department Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs for a fruitful discussion. U.S. State Department Assistant Secretary Donald Lu discussed overcoming the ongoing economic challenges in Sri Lanka. The Bureau in a tweet stated that the U.S. welcomes Sri Lanka, the IMF working towards a sustainable solution to relieve economic hardships. Sri Lanka is seeking $4 billion this year to help ease shortages of food, fuel and medicines as foreign reserves dwindle and an international debt default looms. In an interview with Bloomberg, the finance minister expressed that Sri Lanka will take necessary steps to raise revenue and meet post-restructured debt repayment while ensuring a safety net for vulnerable groups.
So in terms of what steps the government needs to take, there's a lot of people talking about maybe moving in another direction, taking these more steps of austerity. Maybe are there any plans to do something like increase a tax, like the VAT tax, restore some other taxes that you got rid of? Because people are saying, look, if you don't plan to raise revenue, how are you going to get this going? And present plans that show you're sustainable when it comes to restructuring and then paying back debt.
Yeah, we need to do it, but we need to sequence this properly because Sri Lankans have already been under pressure because of the depreciation. We have floated the dollar, and as a result of which Sri Lanka has seen depreciation about 60 to 70% of their currency. That has resulted in inflation and also resulted in food inflation. So we need to be careful on that and sequence of it. But our 8.6% of the GDP as tax revenue is unthinkable. We need to go back to 13 to 14 level at least on the medium term for us to be competitive in the field, and we understand that. So we are working with the multilaterals and all the other institutions and think tanks. How do we do it and how do we sequence it? So yes, there is a desire to do that, and we will do it.
In the meantime, the Indian High Commission in Colombo announced that the Reserve Bank of India has extended the duration of the $400 million currency swap for the central bank in Sri Lanka, which was concluded in January this year. The Indian High Commission in Colombo announced that India's unstinted and multifaceted support to Sri Lanka will be continued. As ongoing currency support, Reserve Bank of India extended the duration of the $400 million currency swap for central bank in Sri Lanka, which was concluded in January this year. At the same time, Foreign Ministry further announced that China has also pledged an urgent emergency aid of around 10 billion rupees to crisis-hit Sri Lanka to buy rice, medicines and other essentials. The pledge came after Foreign Minister G.L. Peiris met Chinese Ambassador Shi Sheshong yesterday in Colombo. Meanwhile, an official from the Chinese Embassy in Sri Lanka revealed that Sri Lanka will receive $31 million in emergency humanitarian assistance from China. Sri Lankan Ambassador in Beijing Dr. Palitha Kohana yesterday said that Sri Lanka's requirement should be specified for the Chinese authorities to work out the arrangement. The official also added that such assistance would be extended in terms of medicines and food items. Besides, the $2.5 billion credit facilities comprise of a $1 billion loan and a $1.5 billion buyer's credit sought by Sri Lanka are in process at the moment. Further, an official from the President's office said that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa sought the financial assistance from China to top up dwindling foreign reserves. Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe told Parliament that Sri Lanka will not have access to an IMF rapid financial instrument as a bridging facility until the government presents a viable fiscal plan. The former Premier also added that any no-confidence motion must be delayed until the return of the Finance Minister Ali Sabri, after which broad consensus must be established on the best way forward.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ රැපිඩ් ෆයිනෑන්ෂල් මේකක් අරගන්නෙත් අපිට RFI එකක් ගන්න ශීඝ්‍ර මූල්‍ය ආධාර ගන්න එක අපි සුදුසු නෑ කිව්වා. සුදුසු නැති නිසා දැන් මොකද්ද අපි කරන්නේ? අපිට කියලා තියෙනවා කාරණා ගණනාවක්. ඒක මම ඇමතුමා ගිහින් IMF එකේ අධ්‍යක්ෂක ජෙනරල් තුමිය මුණ ගැහුණේ ඒක හොඳයි. ඒ වගේම අපි නිර්මලා සතිරාමන් මැතිනියට ස්තුති කරන්න මුදල් ඇමතුමියට එතුමිය සහභාගී වුණ එක ඊට පස්සේ ගිහින් ගීතා ගෝපිනාත් දෙවනියා හම්බුණා මම එකක් කියන්න පුළුවන් නිර්මලා මැතිනිය එන්නේ තමිල්නාඩු වලින් ගීතා ගෝපිනාත් එන්නේ කේරළ වලින් ඉතින් අපේ දෙපැත්තෙම ඉන්නේ අපි ගන්න හොඳට දන්න අය ඩේවිඩ් ලූ හම්බ වෙන එකත් හොඳයි ඉතින් දැන් එතනින් මොකද්ද කරන්න කියලා අපිට කියන්න අපි මේ දවස් දෙක මම එකඟ වෙනවා විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා එක්ක මේ මාර්ග සිතියම ඕන කියලා. ඒත් මං හිතා මේ දවස් දෙක උවමනයි ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ගිහින් හොයාගන්න මොකද්ද ඒ අය කරන්න කියලා. එතකොට අපිට එන සුමානේ සාකච්ඡාව එක්ක මේ මාර්ග සිතියම අපිට ලබලා දෙන්න. Because economic issue can become a geopolitical issue. So that මං හිතන්නේ මුළු පාර්ලිමේන්තුවම ඒකට අවධානය යොමු කරන්න තියෙනවා. අපි කාටවත් ඒකෙන් අයින් වෙන්න බැරි වෙනවා. දැන් අපිට යන්න තියෙන්නේ EFF එකට. Extended Fund Facility. අපි ගිය සැරේ ඔක ආරම්භ කරේ 2015 නොවැම්බර් මාසේ මං හිතන්නේ අවුරුද්දක් ගියා ඒක අවසන් කරන්න. ඉතින් අපි එතෙන්ට අවුරුද්දක් බලාගෙන ඉන්න බෑනේ.
We'll be right back after this short commercial break.
News, views, highlights, updates and opinions. This is Wake Up With Us.
Meet your work and learn targets. Get 30 GB Meet Lite for just 195 rupees and 100 GB Meet Max for 490 rupees. Log on to My SLT app to activate. SLT Mobitel. Meet your work and learn targets. Get 30 GB Meet Lite for just 195 rupees and 100 GB Meet Max for 490 rupees. Log on to My SLT app to activate. SLT Mobitel.
Welcome back after the break. Responding to a journalist's question on the supply of fuel, Minister of Energy and Power Kanchana Wijesekara on Tuesday assured that going forward there will be no shortage in petrol or diesel. However, it has been observed even today that filling stations are now dealing with long lines for petrol.
අකණ්ඩව මෙහි මොහොතේ තියෙන තොගත් එක්ක අපිට ඉන්ධන ලබා දීමේ ගැටලුවක් මේ මොහොතේ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා තොග තියෙනවා අපිට පෙට්‍රල් සහ ඩීසල් කියන තොග. අපිට භූමි තෙල් වල තමයි යම් අඩුවක් තිබුණේ. නමුත් භූමි තෙල් සහ ජෙට් ෆුවල් කියන එක ඒක අද දවසේ නැව කටයුතු සිදු කරමින් පවතිනවා මේ මොහොතේත්. ඒ නිසා අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් පෙට්‍රල් එහෙම අපි වෙනදට වැඩිය වෙනදට මෙට්‍රික් ටන් 3000ක් නිකුත් කරපු එක 4200ක් 4500ක් නිකුත් කරලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් පහුගිය දින කීපෙ ඇත්තටම ඇති වුණේ අර එකක් පැනික් බයින් කියන එක අපි දැන් අර රුපියල් 5000ට සීමා කරාම 1000ට සීමා කරාම 1500ට සීමා කරේ ඇත්තටම මේ වේගය වැඩි කරන්න රැඳිලා ඉන්න අර කාලය අඩු කරන්න. හැබැයි බොහෝ දෙනෙක් හිතුවේ මේ සීමා කරලා තියෙන්නේ තොග නැති හින්දා කියන එක. ඊළඟට IOC එකකින් වැඩි කරාට පස්සේ බොහෝ පිරිස් ගබඩා කරන්න පටන් ගත්තා. ඒ නිසා තමයි පෙට්‍රල් වල යම් හිඟයක් බවට පත් වෙනවා කියන බියක් ඇති වුණේ. නමුත් මම පැහැදිලිව කියනවා මේ ඉදිරි දින කීපය සඳහා ඩීසල් එමන් නැත්නම් පෙට්‍රල් වල හිඟයක් නැහැ. අපි ඒක අකණ්ඩව ලබා දෙන කටයුතු කරනවා.
The National Consumer Price Index for all items as compiled by the Department of Census and Statistics is at 172.7. This increase of 4.9 index points from 167.8 in February 2022 represents an increase in expenditure value of 1,572.34 rupees in the market basket. The NCPI has weights based on consumer spending in the 2012-2013 Household Income and Expenditure Survey and reflects new methods consistent with international best practices. The month-on-month changes were contributed by increase in the index value of food and non-food items by 1.22% and 1.70% respectively. For food items, increases in index values were reported for most items. However, decreases in index values were reported for vegetables, big onions, potatoes, red onions, green chilies and limes. For non-food items, increases in index values in March 2022 compared to the previous months were mainly due to the price increases in all groups except education, which remained unchanged during the month. The overall rate of inflation as measured by NCPI on a year-on-year basis is 21.5% in March 2022 and the inflation calculated for February 2022 was 17.5%. With respect to March 2021, the reported inflation for the month of March 2022 was mainly due to higher price levels in both food and non-food groups. Accordingly, the year-on-year inflation of the food group increased to 29.5% in March 2022 from 24.7% in February 2022, and the year-on-year inflation of the non-food group increased to 14.5% in March 2022 from 11% in February 2022. On year-on-year basis, contribution of food commodities to inflation was 13.79% in March 2022 compared to months of March 2021. Contribution of non-food items was 7.7%. This was mainly due to price increases in all groups of items except in the group communication, which only rose slightly during this period. The moving average inflation for the month of March 2022 is 10.6%. The corresponding rate for the month of February 2022 was 9.3%. Tea exports for the month of March 2022 totaled 23.17 million kilograms, showing a decrease of 2.64 million kilograms compared to 25.81 million kilograms of March 2021. January to March 2022 cumulative exports total 63.70 million kilograms, showing a decrease of 6.19 million kilograms, vice versa 69.89 million kilograms in January to March 2021. Tea in bulk has shown a noteworthy increase, whilst packeted tea has shown a significant decline, and tea bags to a lesser extent when compared to March 2021. Iraq has emerged as the #1 major importer of Ceylon tea with an increase of 75% year-on-year in January-March 2022. UAE, which also increased its imports by 57% year-on-year, has secured the second position, followed by Russia with a decline of 15% year-on-year. Azerbaijan has moved up to fourth position, having increased imports 17% year-on-year. Iran has secured the fifth position, having increased imports by 27% year-on-year. Other notable importers are Turkey, Libya, China, Saudi Arabia and Germany. Meanwhile, Turkey has moved down to sixth position from the first position it occupied in 2021, with imports having dropped by a significant 64%. Syria has also dropped to 13th position from the 8th position it occupied in previous year, with a decrease of 56% year-on-year. FOB value of 1,045 rupees in March 2022 records the highest ever in calendar month, surpassing the previous best of 962 rupees and 27 cents in February 2022. This records an increase of 94.33 rupees compared to 950 rupees and 81 cents of March 2021. Although the total rupee FOB value has increased in 2022, in USD terms it reflects a significantly lower value. FOB value of 988 rupees and 15 cents records an increase of almost 50 rupees compared to 938 rupees and 97 cents of January to March 2021. Up next are Forex rates. That's all we have for you tonight. Have a great weekend. Good night.
Meet your work and learn targets. Get 30 GB Meet Lite for just 195 rupees and 100 GB Meet Max for 490 rupees. Log on to My SLT app to activate. SLT Mobitel.
State of Business was sponsored by
UHD quality video streaming, internet like a boss, SLT Mobitel Fiber,
IWS Aviation.